Man, I swear that one day I am going to get the lighting right, but oh well, we make do with what we have. Hi friends, it's Brecky. I am the homeschooling mom of twins. I have twin 6-year-old girls who are in first grade and who we are homeschooling in a very Charlotte Mason inspired way. I also have 2 older children who are in high school and they've been publicly schooled the whole way. So I have done this from all perspectives. I have a kid getting ready to graduate and I have 2 that have really just started their education journey. It is a lot and it is also wonderful. Today I want to show you a little bit of our updated routine for the year. I meant to do a routine look back last semester and it just didn't get accomplished in the great shuffle of things that I have to do. Today, I'm going to show you my actual working notebook. So this is my current working life planner thing here. Actually, it's not technically the life planner. That's an actual thing from Erin Condren. This is an academic planner that I am using for all my life. And I'm going to show you how I use this and I use our daily routine to keep us on track. Traditionally, in the Charlotte Mason method, there is a timetable and everything is put in its beautiful little time-slotted place. I hate that idea. I did try to organize that and it felt completely overwhelming. It felt very arbitrary and it didn't feel good. It just did not feel good with my type B sort of brain. So instead of a more rigid timetable, I have created a flow and we try to switch things up on loop schedules inside our flow, but keep the frame that works for us. Now, we had a very similar workflow last year, but it was more morning basket intensive. And you're gonna see that we have pretty much gotten rid of about 50% of morning basket, or not gotten rid of it, we've redistributed it. So let me show you what this looks like. Our temporary name for our homeschool is the Princess Scholars Academy. No, that is not what we're going to officially name our homeschool. I have until July or August before I have to officially name my homeschool. So I have time. If you have ideas for homeschool names, let me know. I have 3 or 4 that I'm debating, but I haven't settled on one. And yes, I'm using a fancy teacup because we were doing poetry tea time and I'm still drinking my vanilla rooibos. Okay, so this is our flow chart. If I can figure out how to link documents, I will link these. I just haven't done that because I haven't figured it out yet. So when I figure it out, I will link it in the description. And I will go back and link to the planning video, but I haven't figured it out yet. So I promise I'll tell you once I figure it out. I'll let you know and it will be linked down below. But at this exact moment of filming, I don't know how to link documents without you changing my own document. Does that make sense? So we'll see. When I figure it out, I know that there is a way. I will link it. So just if it's not there at upload, look back in a few days and it'll probably be there. So this is our workflow and I'm just going to go through this broad scope and then I will niche down a bit and then I'll talk about how I use my planner. So we have everything broken into 3 general hours because I don't want at this age for us to go beyond 3 hours. Do we sometimes spill over past 3 hours? Yes. Usually we take longer breaks or we're having a lot of wiggles. Something like that has gone on, but it's very rarely because we have material we're covering, okay? The other thing I want to say here is that we have to work around some other people's schedule. My home does not have a separated space between the dining room, the living room, and the kitchen. It's basically like a giant open floor plan, which seems great until you try to do different things in those spaces, and then everybody's on top of everybody and you're all interrupting one another. So we just choose to wait to start any of this until after the big siblings are out the door on their way to high school. Their bus arrives around 8:15. So high school buses are the latest in our region, in our district. So we can't even start sitting down really to breakfast. Like we can kind of start, but we want to be out of their way while they're making their breakfast and getting their lunches packed and getting all their stuff together. So while the 2 big ones are doing that, the little ones, if they're awake, I let them sleep until about 8 usually, are kind of out of the way. They are playing, they're being silly somewhere else. Sometimes we're reading a story. They're looking at picture books, really into Where's Waldo right now. We're doing other things until the big ones go, daddy's kind of out of the way, and then we make breakfast because my husband works at home. So he works upstairs in our home. So once sort of most people who need to get their stuff on a more rigid timeline than us are out of the kitchen, we make breakfast. over breakfast, we do our Bible and devotion. That is something that we've pulled out of morning basket time. Then after breakfast, and sometimes I'll add the poem of the day in here if we have time, if breakfast is kind of more lollygaggy. Otherwise, we do the Bible and then we do the devotions. They're done before kind of our official school start day. We now have morning chores and we have a chore chart. We earn points rather than dollars. They are working up to 100 points, which will earn them $10 at this really adorable toy store that's not too far from us, plus whatever dollars they have from other things. So one of them has like $6 from her 6th birthday that she hasn't spent. So she will have $16 at her disposal when it's time to go shopping. So that's where morning chores come in. So here it says Bible reading over breakfast. We would have a pause here and do our chores between the Bible reading and breakfast and school starting. Okay, then we officially start school. And our morning basket, which used to be between 30 and 45 minutes, and it had so many other things. I will link the non-traditional morning basket video above. I have redistributed it because I found that it was making us tired. And while all the things in the morning basket were good, we just needed to redistribute them throughout the day to keep our momentum. So you'll see that here. We now have a poem a day, our short reading loop, which is we're still working on Paddle to the Sea. That book is surprisingly long when you only read one page once or twice a week. It is going to take us probably the whole year. I was hoping to get through it faster than that, but we're going to take it as we take it. So that's our sort of morning naturalist read, or we do an inspiring woman. I have one about activist kids that I think I'll just do next year. And these are just inspiration, right? They were part of the old inspiration loop. But instead of having the Bible in there, we've pulled Bible out. We do that over breakfast. And now we have sort of our short reads and short narration loop here. Then we have a flashcard loop. This is our sight words and our math facts. And we go back and forth every day, picking just one. Okay. We often will do sight words also as a review during our phonics, but we have specific sight words that we're working on in this loop that are separate from our phonics sight words, if that's helpful. Finally, we have our writing loop, handwriting, and copy work, and this is the one that I sometimes move. So if I find that we're getting a little bit wiggly or we're a little bit late in the day, I sometimes will just skip the handwriting and I will move it down here. But it is up there because sometimes it's nice to actually just start with copy work. We will actually have just listened, and to get us back to the table, we'll do the handwriting because it's more kinesthetic. And then when we've been at the table, I will do the other loops. So I just add that in. Okay, then we move into the core subject, and that is math. And I have tried switching the timing of math. I have tried doing phonics first and then math, and it does not work for us. Math needs to be first. Our brains need to be freshest for math. We just get too distracted. A little bit of the fatigue of the day makes it so it's hard for us to focus on math. So we are keeping math first. That's just how it is. It works for us. Why mess with a system that is working for you? Then we have a break, 10 to 15 minutes, usually about 10. I have timers now that are helping me be a better monitor of time. But then we have a wiggle break. You just need a little bit of a break. This is a chance to go to the bathroom, a chance to get a snack, the chance to get some water, the chance to, work on some coloring that you had to put down after breakfast. Whatever it is, we do allow ourselves a break here. Although it is not the official snack break, we do have a break. Okay, hour 2. We start with our literature or history. So because we tend to school 3 table days a week and then 2 experience days a week, right? We have a co-op on Fridays that is just enrichment. We have nature school on Thursdays. We do 3 days of table school. Will this be able to last forever? No, but I think during kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, it's fine. 3rd grade will be the transition year, and we'll see kind of what we end up with there. But for now, this is working great for us. So we tend to do 1 day of history, 2 days of literature. Right now, because throughout the month of January, we haven't had nature school or co-op, we are doing 4 days of table school a week. So we're doing 2 history and 2 literature. So I'm just adding a little bit more history in. And this is the history of the alveary. This is the alveary history. Again, we do car schooling where we listen to Story of the World. We are only doing alveary history here. We do then a workbook loop. This is grammar, which isn't really a workbook, but we're doing the first language lessons. We do explode the code, and we do logic. Those are the 3 things we have on a loop. So during our 3 table school days, we'll hit each of them at least once. I was a little worried we needed to do more grammar, but first language lessons is so gentle that like it's okay if there's a week between them. You're not hopping through concepts. It is very slow, almost too slow. So I'm not really worried about just doing it once. They're also in 1st grade. Like if they just know what a noun and a verb is by the time we're done, I'm fine with that. But this just allows us to move through several different subjects. And just like in the Charlotte Mason timetable, where there are things that might only happen once or twice in a week, that is the same thing with the loop schedule. Right? That's the same thing with the loop schedule. It's just less like, oh, you have to do logic on Monday, you have to do grammar on Tuesday, you have to do explode the code on Wednesday. I can do them with what seems correct, with our energy level, with other things that we're doing, knowing what we're doing in literature, knowing what we're covering in phonics, that kind of a thing. So if I'm having a more reading heavy phonics day where the girls are just going to read to me and there's nothing gamey about it, I might choose the explode the code to have that paired on that phonics day. Now I will also say sometimes I switch the handwriting loop and the workbook loop. Again, I read the room. As long as I do both of them, I don't mind switching where some of the loops are, but I've tried to move things so we go from here, something that's more passive, the reading, right? History and literature tend to be me reading out loud and them narrating back. There's not always an art component. Sometimes I do add an art narration in, but it's not always. Whereas this, the logic and the explode the code are going to allow them to do the kinesthetic handwriting. So if I have given them a narration, an oral narration for literature, then I am going to let them do the logic or the explode the code because it's kinesthetic. It's physical movement with their hands. If they have done an art, creative art literature, then I'm going to have them do the grammar because it's more passive. Does that make sense? Are we on the same page there? Finally, we do phonics last here. We do phonics last here because most of the time we split phonics up and we do it individually because I find that it's usually best one-on-one, although like today we did the sound of WH, like that phonetic, that phonogram, and we did that together, and then they're going to do a review practice with me tomorrow individually so they can play the game and start the reading. So we don't do it every single time split up, but usually we do. So when that happens, The Good and the Beautiful has CVC little games that you get when you are a member because you've purchased things from them. They're free. You don't have to buy the games. You just have to have like a login. And so the kids get my phone and they get to play 15 minutes of a CVC word reading practice game while this sister who's not playing the game is doing phonics with me, and then they switch. And so we do about 15 to 20 minutes of phonics a piece, and then we have a longer break. And so it says 10-minute break and snack. Honestly, this one's usually 15 minutes, sometimes even 20 minutes if phonics has kind of dragged on a little bit and we've had, if we've powered through, we've got a lot of extra wiggles, we're really hungry, we take a little bit longer break here, but I have it scheduled for 10. I mentally know it's more like 15. Then we do our final hour of the day here. And this is our sort of science hour. So we are doing The Good and the Beautiful's Little Hearts, Little Hands. We are nearly done with Bones and Stones, which we started last semester. We've just taken a while to get through it. We are going to finish that up probably by the end of January. And then we're going to start Sparks and Stars. And again, 1 to 2 times a week, we are going to do that. And then 1 to 2 times a week, we will be doing the nature reading from the Alviary. Now, the Alviary has general science and natural history as 2 different science streams. I did not care for the general science options for grade 1, so I stuck with Little Hearts and Little Hands for this year, but we plan to do both next year. So I just want them to get used to having 2 different sort of sciences because we will pick that up next year and we'll already be used to that in our loop. Then we add in our Spanish lessons and then geography and art. So sometimes I do Spanish earlier on, but usually this is where I make sure we go over the Spanish vocabulary. Right now we are just in a process of learning vocabulary. I'm not doing anything else. That is our Spanish curriculum for this year, is to start learning vocabulary for things around the house. I have the flashcards from Homeschool Languages. I have some flashcards from Ebu. I may or may not pick up some more flashcards, but we're just going to do that. We're just going to practice learning Spanish vocabulary. Talkbox Mom, man, I really hoped that they were going to have more stuff. I have not been super impressed with them so far. I will give you more reviews as we get a little bit more into it, but that is there. But we just add in our Spanish. We do that every day. We're trying to do that every day. We're really trying to do that every day. And then depending upon the day, depending upon how much other stuff has happened, we will do a geography lesson from Skill Builders Geography or an art lesson. I was hoping we would do brush drawing, but it is too intensive for the capacities that I have. So I'm actually thinking that next year, if I can buy a used copy of Artistic Pursuits with a DVD, we may start doing a weekly art lesson through Artistic Pursuits that way, so that I'm not having to be in charge of the art education. I don't have a lot of skill. It's something that I'm very insecure about, and I already have enough on my plate that I just can't teach myself that and teach my kids that. You know what I mean? You have to pick your battles. So that kind of is at the bottom. And then of course, read alouds that we do every day. I try to do about 20 minutes with the kids, usually over lunch. So there we go. Sometimes I use audiobooks, y'all. Sometimes it's an audiobook over lunch because I'm burned out and exhausted after 3 hours. I'll be honest, this is an honest place. I'm not here to tell you I'm perfect and sugarcoat everything. Homeschooling is hard. It's a full-time job. You are a teacher with fewer resources than most teachers, even though you have fewer students than most teachers. Okay, so that is the flow. That is our grand flow. Hour 1, hour 2, hour 3. And hour 1 and hour 2 are anchored by the two most important core for us, which are phonics and math. And then hour 3 is anchored by all of our science education, which I really love, and Spanish. So everything has an important lesson that we're doing. If we find that we have a shortened amount of time, usually I will focus on our math, our phonics, and I can shorten those lessons or just do review lessons. And then I will do some kind of read aloud, whether it's our literature or our history or our nature reader or just our actual read aloud. That's how we will shorten the day. I also try to include handwriting or copy work every day. Now, some of the things that you're not seeing that you would often see in a Charlotte Mason, a true pure Charlotte Mason homeschool, would be handicrafts. I don't have handicrafts in there because it's not something we do all the time. Art, of course, solfa, singing, Swedish drill, all that kind of stuff. I do want to, as we master this flow and it feels good, I want to add in daily yoga. That is something I really want to do. I just haven't figured out how to add it in without disrupting a flow that works. So that's important. We want to do daily yoga as our drill to replace our drill. And I want us to be adding in more singing and art. We do also have like recitation in our ESL cards, and those are in our morning basket time. I just didn't write them in our flow because we naturally do them. Then this is the weekly spread, or half the week. This is the first 3 days. Now, this is where I keep appointments, but I have them covered, so you don't see all my business. Then I, on Sundays, write out what we are planning on doing. Now, last week, for example, on Wednesday, we went to a science center near us, so about an hour from us. And so we didn't have anything. I just put science center here, and then I moved all the things that I normally would have here over to Thursday. But this is how I can keep track, and I just, on Sunday nights, as I am reviewing everything, I take about an hour every Sunday, I look through everything we are going to be doing for the week, I make sure we have the supplies that we need, that we have the right books, that if we need to, we can put them on hold at the library. If we need anything prepped for a science experiment, although we don't have a lot of experiment heavy stuff this year, you know, I'm doing that on Sunday. And then I'm writing out what the plan is for each day. And as you can see for today, we haven't done our Spanish flashcards because my oldest is going to come home and promise to practice with us when they got home from school. So that is left open. And then I forgot to mark read aloud, which I'm going to do right now to give myself credit because we did read aloud with like a poetry tea time and some brownies that we just baked because it's cold here. In fact, this is why I have my teacup. And so then I use this bottom section because this doesn't take up everything. I use the bottom half for my personal to-do list. So that way I have one planner that works for my whole life, right? It has my school stuff for the girls, but also it has my running to-do lists and appointments. And then I have a monthly spread where I can kind of see what's happening when. Now I do keep most of my appointments in my phone as well. This is a redundancy. That way, between the workflow that I already have established and the rhythm that we already anticipate, I can make a list of what we expect to do each and every week, and we can keep on schedule and on task. This system has been really helpful. It's what we started using back in November and December. I used a different planner. Obviously, this is the 2026 academic planner, and it starts in January, and it goes for the whole year. So it goes for 12 months, even though it's technically the academic planner. And then this is a flow that we've worked through. And so the whole thing for me is that there's a core subject that anchors each of the 3 hours. So math, phonics, and then science. And then here we add in the morning basket, which is a bunch of small things on rotational loop. We have our loop here, and then we have a loop here. And so in that way, this flow really mirrors a Charlotte Mason timetable. And I think for those of you who are intimidated by the Charlotte Mason timetable, if that is something you've looked at and you were like me and thought, I can't do Charlotte Mason because that is way too intense, this looping schedule where you anchor your time by your core subject, by your sort of significant subject, and then you have smaller, shorter looping scheduled pieces around it, might make the world of difference. I know it's what has allowed me to get so many different pieces into our routine without feeling rigid. Comment down below and let me know, do you have more of a timetable style of a schedule or a rhythm style of a schedule? I love our workflow. It has worked well for us. It has allowed me to be flexible on the days I really need to, but also it has given me the tools to be really grounded and to stay firm when I need to stay firm. And I think that could be a whole different video, but sometimes homeschool moms really need to know the difference between flexibility for the good and firmness for the good. We need both. Anyways, I'd love to know, how are you doing things? Is this helpful? And if you are more of a Charlotte Mason person, as I am, do you think a workflow like this would be useful in your Charlotte Mason homeschool? Or again, are you one of those timetable people? I'm always curious to know. All right, y'all, I hope you're doing well. It is so good to be hearing from you. Thank you, everybody who leaves comments. I do read everyone, even if I don't respond to all of them. I do try. All right, y'all, until the next video, bye.